All right, you're going to want to hear this. We are about to unravel a really bizarre 50-year-old mystery. And the clues? Well, they're not hiding in some high-tech lab or a fancy boardroom. Nope. They're hidden in one of the world's oldest trades. And what they show us, well, it has implications for pretty much all of us. So get this. Here's a number that on the surface makes absolutely zero sense. Since 1970, while almost every other industry has seen productivity just skyrocket, construction labor productivity has actually gone down by over 30%. Yeah, you heard that right. It's fallen.
And this chart really just puts it in perspective, doesn't it? I mean, look at this. Since the year 2000, manufacturing is up 90%. The economy as a whole, up 50%. Construction, a measly 10%. So what does this mean? It means a construction worker today with all the fancy CNC machines, laser levels, and software is literally producing less value than their counterpart did 5 decades ago with just a circular saw and a pencil.
Which brings us to the big question, the one we're going to dig into today. How is that even possible? I mean, how can an entire industry go backward in an age of unbelievable technological progress? Well, as we're about to see, the answer has almost nothing to do with technology.
And just so we're clear, this isn't some kind of fluke or a mistake in how we're measuring things. Oh no. Economists and researchers have confirmed it again and again. It's a deep, systemic problem that has been baffling the industry for more than half a century.
So here it is, the critical point. The problem isn't the tools in our hands, it's the frameworks in our heads. We have a fundamental issue with how we approach problem solving itself.
To really get our heads around this huge economic paradox, we have to zoom way, way in. We're going to leave the spreadsheets behind for a minute and find the clues where they've been hiding in plain sight this whole time, inside a simple closet cabinet.
Okay, so take a look at this blueprint. For decades, a super common technique in making cabinets is using what's called shared partitions. Basically, instead of building 2 separate boxes and sticking them side by side, you just build one big box and put a single divider down the middle. On paper, it sounds like a no-brainer, right? You save a sheet of plywood, it looks efficient.
But this right here perfectly illustrates the core of the whole paradox. What seems efficient, saving a little bit of cheap material, is actually wildly inefficient. Why? Because that one smart move to save a few bucks creates this massive cascade of complexity and, you guessed it, expensive labor costs down the entire line.
You know, there's a perfect phrase for this way of thinking. It was coined by a cabinet maker from Apex, North Carolina. He calls it chasing pennies into a corner. You get so focused on saving this tiny little bit of money that you back yourself into a very, very expensive situation.
And this quote just says it all. This is the disastrous trade-off at the heart of the problem. You're sacrificing your most valuable, most expensive resource, which is skilled labor time, all to save a tiny amount of your absolute cheapest resource, the material. It's a total economic disaster hiding in plain sight.
And that one decision, that one little choice to share a partition, it just creates problems at every single step. It means you suddenly need different, more complex hardware. It means the spacing for your doors and drawers gets all inconsistent, which takes forever to adjust. It leads to way more mistakes and rework. It wastes the installer's precious time on site. And get this, at the end of the day, the final product is actually less sturdy than if you just put 2 simple separate boxes next to each other.
So, okay, if this method is so obviously bad, why on earth does an entire industry keep doing it? Well, because the root cause isn't a building technique. It's a fundamental flaw in how we are all conditioned to think, a flaw that was wired into us from our very first day of school.
We really need to understand the difference between being taught and actually learning. Being taught is what happens in school, right? It's passive, you sit there, it's often painful, and it's all about finding that one right answer that the teacher already knows. But learning is what we do for ourselves. It's active, it's messy, it's iterative, and it's driven by a real hunger to understand something.
Think about it. Back in the 1970s, the apprenticeship model was huge. You were right there in the shop, learning actively, getting immediate feedback if you messed up. But today, a lot of that's been replaced by online forums and social media groups, which, let's be honest, often become echo chambers. In these places, complexity gets praised like it's a sign of expertise, while simple, efficient methods get totally ignored. It's groupthink, and it reinforces bad practices.
And this is the psychological trap. Imagine you're a 40-year-old pro who's been building cabinets with shared partitions for 2 decades. Admitting they're inefficient means you have to admit you've been wasting time and losing money for your entire career. For most people, that is just a psychologically unbearable cost. It's so much easier to just double down on the bad practice than it is to face that truth.
So the big question is, how do we break this cycle? It's not about finding a new piece of software or buying a new tool. The real superpower here is adopting a whole new mindset. It's about making that crucial shift from being taught to actively learning.
The path forward is actually incredibly simple, and it cuts through all the arguments and all the egos. First, you have to question the common sense way of doing things. Second, you test your assumptions with a real-world experiment. Third, you measure the results objectively. And fourth, this is the most important part. You let the cold, hard data decide what's best.
And this is the ultimate challenge, the thing that cuts through all the noise. Don't believe me? Don't believe the forums. Go build one cabinet with shared partitions and one with separate boxes. Track the time, from the very first cut to the very final screw. The numbers, they will tell you everything you need to know.
And that right there is the ultimate takeaway. The goal isn't to just sit around and wait for some expert to hand you the one right answer. The real power lies in adopting a process of discovery, a way of thinking that allows you to find the right answer for yourself, over and over and over again. So I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on. What are the shared partitions in your work or in your life? What are those things that everybody does just because it seems efficient, but that you've never actually stopped to question and measure for yourself?